Hi everyone, my name is Grace. When I started looking for a research topic, I wanted to choose something that could teach me a different way of seeing the world. That's why I chose Terra Mary. At first, I thought I was simply learning about an indigenous language in New Zealand. But after spending time reading books, articles, and watching interviews, I realized that the topic were much bigger than I expected. It made me understand that a language is not only something people speak, and sometimes it becomes the place where a community keeps its memory, traditions, and identity alive. That idea stayed with me from the beginning of my research until the very end. Before talking about the language itself, I wanted to understand the people who created it. The Maori are the indigenous people of Aotearoa, New Zealand. One thing I appreciated during my research was seeing how naturally Te Maoris is connected to everyday life. It's spoken during ceremonies. It appears in songs. It's heard inside families and local communities. The language is not treated as something separate from culture. Instead, it grew together with it. The more I learned, the more I understood that protecting a language is also a way of protecting relationship between people, generation, and traditions. I think that's the one reason why Tamari continue to have such a special meaning today. Like many indigenous communities around the world, Maori people also experiences the effects of colonizations. When English became the main language in schools, fewer children continued speaking Terra Mary. Of course, this changed the language itself, but what interested me even more was how it changed everyday life. Language is often passed from grandparents to parents and then to children. When that connections become weaker, cultural knowledge can also become more difficult to pass on. Reading this part of history reminded me that language loss is usually a slow process. It did not happen in a single day. It happened little by little, across many years and many generations. Fortunately, this story did not end there. Instead of accepting the loss, many Maori communities worked together to bring their language back. One example is Kohangaro, or language nest, where young children learn their Maori from an early age. Many students also continue studying in Maori immersion schools. What impressed me most was not simply the education system, it's were their determination behind it. These schools are not only teaching another language, they are helping young people grow up with a stronger connection to their culture. And to me, that's so how education can also become a way of preserving heritage. And this were probably my favorite part of their research. Some Mary words cannot be translated into one simple English word because they whisper an idea that are deeply connected to Mary culture. And for example, Wakapapa is about family, ancestry, and the connection between generations. Another important concept is Kaitia Kitanga, which reflects their responsibility to care for the natural world and for future generations. Learning this word helped me understand that language is more than vocabulary. And sometimes understanding one word helps us understand an entire culture. Working on this project also trained the way I think about language. Before, I mostly saw language as a practical tools for communications. And now I see that it can also preserve history, values, and identity. And as an international student from Vietnam, I spend most of my day using English. Because of this research, I started appreciating my own language in a different way. Every culture has words that are difficult to translate because they carry experiences, traditions, and way of thinking that are unique. I think that is something we should never take for granted. And when I choose the topic, I hope to learn something new about Mari culture. And in the end, I learned something much broader than that. I learned that protecting a language is also a way of protecting history, knowledge, and Terramar is a good example of how a community can preserve its culture while continuing to move forward. And in my opinion, this project was not only about learning fast, it's more about understanding why those folk matter. And I hope this story reminded that every language has something valuable to teach and that learning about another cultures can also help us appreciate ourselves. And thank you for listening. Thank you so much.